going to make sure that recording is in progress. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Ebony Bagley, and I am the Communications Director for the AHA covering Southeastern Michigan. But today I am your MC for the Great Lakes Bay region, Go Red Talks. Welcome, and thank you so much for being here. Today, we're going to hear from leaders in health as they share advice on cardiovascular health, ways they are impacting the community, and teachable moments for us all, followed by a panel discussion where you will get to ask our speakers and presenters any questions you may have. I would like to thank MyMichigan Health for sponsoring this event and being a dedicated supporter of the Go Red for Women movement. As a reminder, throughout today's program, the chat is open. So please place your questions, place your comments for our speakers and presenters in the chat. I also want to remind any of our speakers and panelists to feel free to engage too within the chat by sharing any contact information, links, social media handles, or anything like that. Now, we are going to go ahead and get started. Our first presenter today is Jamie Campbell. Jamie is an EMS paramedic for MyMichigan Medical Center. Today, Jamie will share the importance of calling 911 in the case of a cardiovascular emergency. Let's take a look.
Hello, my name is Jamie Campbell, and I'm a paramedic at MyMichigan Medical Center EMS in Midland. Today, I wanted to talk about cardiac symptoms in women and why it is so important to seek medical treatment right away. Working in EMS, you learn very quickly that not everyone has the same signs and symptoms when it comes to a medical emergency, especially when it comes to cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women, causing 1 in 3 deaths each year. The good news is that most cardiovascular diseases can be prevented with education and a healthy lifestyle change. The first step towards prevention is knowing your risk factors. These include high blood pressure, smoking, high blood cholesterol, lack of regular activity, being obese or overweight, and diabetes. It is also important for you to know how to recognize the signs and symptoms of a heart attack. Remember, only you know if something is feeling off, so don't ignore that feeling. Calling 911 gives you the best outcome because pre-hospital treatments can be started in the ambulance. Upon arrival, EMS personnel can start the cardiovascular therapy needed, including medication and an EKG to see your heart rhythm on the cardiac monitor. If something like a heart attack is showing on the monitor, we have the ability to send your EKG directly to the ER. This makes the cardiologist aware of the types of treatments needed before you arrive. The signs and symptoms of a heart attack include chest pain, but not always, pain or pressure in the lower chest or abdomen, jaw, neck, or upper back pain, nausea or vomiting, shortness of breath, fainting, indigestion, and extreme fatigue. If you experience any of these symptoms, I urge you to take immediate action. Never drive yourself to the hospital. Instead, dial 911 and the 911 dispatcher will give you instructions. Most importantly, try to stay calm and take slow, deep breaths while waiting for the emergency responders to arrive. Remember, don't wait, don't drive, dial 911. By following these simple steps, you have the best chance of recovery without the loss of heart muscle or long-term complications. And you might just save a life, your own.
Thank you, Jamie. Wow, that is such important information, especially as we start to gather over the next couple weeks, during the holidays. It's always so important to just be ready in case of an emergency. Now, Jamie, we're going to hear more from you later on the panel, but I do want you all to make sure you hold your questions or comments. I think that's such information, though. Thank you.
Welcome.
Now, I'd like us to turn our attention to our next presenter. I would like to introduce our next presenter. We have Catherine Knoll. She is the Midwest Region Senior Vice President of Community Health, and she is here today to discuss the impact of the AHA in the Great Lakes region. Catherine.
Well, Ebony, thanks so much. And I would say I am a Bay City, Michigan native, born and raised. And so have so much pride to be back and talking with you all today about the important work that the American Heart Association does. And, you know, at its very basic level, so many people know us as that organization that funds top-notch research that's used by all our hospitals and in treatment of all patients who have risk factors or who have cardiovascular disease. We're known as an organization that works with those hospitals on guidelines and ensures that we have that top-notch care based on that research that's available. We certainly talk with patients about prevention and do so much education available on our website and through various channels so that we're educating people. But I want to just hone in on a couple of things that we're really proud of that we're doing in the Great Lakes Bay region specifically. Just to give you a sense of where our work is currently going. And some of it might sound new and different and not familiar because we are not your grandmother's American Heart Association. We are always growing and changing with the needs in cardiovascular care in our communities. My thanks to Mid-Michigan Health for having us here today and gathering, because I think that, you know, this information is always important. As long as the Go Red for Women movement has been around, we have consistently needed to get the message out there. And it's amazing to see the results that we see every time we talk about those risk factors that Jamie talked about and acknowledging that an event might be taking place. So certainly we're doing the know your risk, lower your risk, know when you're having an event. It is so very crucial. But we are also working with the very youngest at heart. Through our Kids Heart Challenge, we are working with schools because we know so much in behavior change starts with our very youngest. We do this through the Kids Heart Challenge, which has a very great, you know, age-specific curriculum that we use in our schools, especially around important issues like physical activity, nutrition, and a big one, vaping. When I first started with the American Heart Association in 1998, we won't do the math on that. I joke that I was 9 years old. We were really working on tobacco issues. You know, the tobacco settlement hadn't been signed. Youth were able to walk into stores and purchase tobacco. And we, in so many ways, have gone right back to that space with vaping. And the thing that is scary about vaping is some of these vaping devices aren't even something that parents recognize are in their home. They look like, you know, a little jump drive for a computer, or they look like something that's incorporated into a hoodie. And so we are really working to educate both parents and students on the dangers of vaping and ensuring that they have that knowledge that they need at a very young age. We're also working on Tobacco 21, ensuring that they are 21 years old before they are able to walk into that store and purchase tobacco. Working with flavors and ensuring that we don't have flavored vapes, because I am quite sure that cotton candy vaping devices and flavors are more appealing to kids than they are to adults. And so those are all things that the American Heart Association is embracing and working towards. We also want safer communities. And by that, I mean that when someone goes into a cardiac arrest, as Jamie was talking about, that there are community members that know how to do hands-only CPR. These hands become their heart. My father was a teacher in the Bay City Public Schools, and in 2003, at the age of 58, died of a cardiac arrest. It was very sudden. He had no risk factors. We had no warning signs. Thankfully, our family was on vacation in northern Michigan, and I was there that day. And he did not make it. But I was able to perform CPR, and even though it didn't work that day, it gave my mother peace of mind that we had done what we could in that moment. And so sometimes it works. Sometimes we're able to to get oxygen to the brain and to the organs while we're waiting for EMS to arrive and that advanced medical care. Sometimes it doesn't, but it is a great skill. And it really does give families that peace of mind that they did what they could during that time. And in so many cases, I've been able to talk to survivors who said, somebody did a CPR on me and it did work, and I'm here to talk about it. And that is great. We are seeing the response of bystanders doing CPR really create an impact on our cardiac emergency response or survival rates, our cardiac arrest survival rates. And so when we see those numbers, it makes a difference. There's a saying, a quote, that statistics are just people with the tears wiped off. And so when we make a bump in those statistics, when we bring the numbers of survivors up, we know we have impacted real lives and that families don't have to face what my family did. We trained 1,000 people over 1,000 people in the Great Lakes Bay region in the last year. And I'm so proud of that. 1,000 more people have that skill and know what to do in an emergency. We're also funding research throughout the state of Michigan, but I'm really proud. Central Michigan University has 3 American Heart Association funded projects. And how cool is it that we are, adding to the innovation just an hour over in Mount Pleasant, but many other schools throughout Michigan are receiving AHA grants, and we're really proud of the impact that they're making. The last thing I would just talk about is, our focus on the social determinants of health. Those things like living in poverty or education level that are impacting the difference in zip codes. We might see a 13-year life expectancy difference between 2 zip codes that really aren't that far away. And so it may surprise you that the AHA is focusing on the social determinants of health and doing so in creative ways. And so just down the road from the Great Lakes Bay region, one of the very unique projects we did was through our Social Impact Fund. That fund is funding people who have creative ideas on how we can impact those social determinants of health. One of the projects we funded in Flint actually dealt with criminals who had served their time and were leaving the prison system, and helped get them back into life, jobs, education. What did they need, and how could we ensure that they didn't go back to prison, that they weren't a part of the crime rate in the community. And by getting people into the resources that they need after they have left the prison system, it matters, and it does impact that crime rate. And crime rate impacts the social determinants of health. So not your grandmother's American Heart Association. We are doing innovative things, but we were really proud through a social impact fund to fund the MAID Institute in Flint and to do that kind of innovative work. So I know I've just touched on a few things that are in and around the Great Lakes Bay region, but I hope it gives you a sense for where the American Heart Association is going and the work that we are doing. And we thank you all for coming alongside us and making that great impact, because as I said, I don't want any family to experience what my family did. And there are great ways that we are making strides to ensure that that doesn't happen. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Even though I'm working for the AHA, it's always so impressive and mind-blowing the amazing work that we do across the whole state, making such a difference, from all ages, covering all demographics, it's really incredible. So thank you, Catherine, for sharing that. I would now like to turn our attention to our next presenters. MyMichigan Health Teaching Kitchen Facilitator, Registered Nurse, Jennifer Felton, and registered dietitian and registered nurse, Liz Batts, as they demonstrate, and this is right on time, how to prepare a heart-healthy, low-sodium stuffing just in time for the holidays. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Felton. I'm a registered nurse here at MyMichigan Health, and with me today is...
Hi, I'm Liz Batts. I'm a registered dietitian here at MyMichigan.
Thank you for inviting us to take part in the Go Red Talk today. We're planning to make a low-sodium stuffing recipe for you. Just to get started, I think we'll run through our ingredients. We're going to start by warming up our pan and adding about 3 tablespoons of olive oil. So regular olive oil is perfect for this. And we'll let that heat up, and next we're going to add our celery and our onion. And we're also going to add our garlic, our minced garlic.
So we have jarred garlic today. You could also mince fresh.
And we're going to cook this for about 5 minutes until our veggies are nice and soft. So next we're going to add our herbs de Provence. This might be an herb that you don't use very often. So now we're going to add our garlic powder, and then we're going to go ahead and add our sage and our parsley. And then next we are going to add our broth. All right, and then lastly we're going to add our bread.
We've already cubed this up for you, so chopped it up into like 3/4 of an inch or 1/2 inch cubes.
And we're using Ezekiel bread. It's a low sodium bread. You're going to stir this until it is has absorbed all the broth. Takes a few minutes, but not too long. Well, our broth is all absorbed, so we can take this off the burner. And then we're going to put it into our cooking pan. Liz, I'm going to have you scoop this out for me while I'm holding it. A little, not bad.
Just going to flatten this out in the pan, make sure it's spread around nice and evenly.
And then we're going to top it off with our walnuts. We're going to go ahead and cover this. And then you're going to bake it in the oven for 15 minutes with the foil on. After your 15 minutes, you'll take off the foil and put it back in the oven for another 15 minutes. So our stuffing is complete, and you've got a low sodium option to serve to your family this Thanksgiving, and we hope you enjoy it. Thanks, everyone.
All right, wow, I haven't had lunch yet, so that made me even more hungry, but what a great and healthy way, to prepare a dish that we're all familiar with, right? So thank you so much to Jennifer and Liz for sharing that. And I definitely have a few questions on how I can, maybe make my holidays a little bit more heart healthy, as we move into those months. Our next presenter right now is MyMichigan Health vascular surgeon, Dr. Yetunde Balogun. Dr. Balogun will share what peripheral artery diseases, better known as PAD, and discuss the causes that contribute to this condition. She will also review some symptoms and risk factors that we can all look out for. Let's take a look.
I'm Dr. Yetunde Balogun, and I'm a fellowship-trained vascular surgeon and a member of the MyMichigan Health's Comprehensive Heart and Vascular Team. I'd like to talk to you about peripheral artery disease. Peripheral artery disease is a slow and progressive disease that occurs due to atherosclerosis. It is very similar to heart disease. Atherosclerosis occurs as a buildup of fat and cholesterol within an artery. This leads to narrowing of the artery and can completely block the artery, which causes this decreased blood flow to an organ. Atherosclerosis affects the arteries that go to the brain, the arms, the intestines, the kidneys, the legs, and feet. Risk factors are very similar to heart disease. As a matter of fact, if you have one of these diseases, you're at greater risk for having the other. And some people already have both. So risk factors also include smoking, age, diabetes, hypertension, and people who already have a family history or a personal history of one of these diseases have increased risk of having peripheral vascular disease. One of the common manifestations of PAD is in the legs and feet. When blood flow is reduced in the legs, people start to complain of pain with walking. Sometimes the pain happens even when not walking. And people that have advanced disease can start to have gangrene. Once gangrene sets in, many will require amputation of their toes or even the leg. So how do we prevent peripheral vascular disease? It's very similar to how we prevent heart disease. We recommend living a healthy lifestyle. We recommend exercising and eating healthy. Smoking cessation is also very important in how we slow the progression of the disease. Once you stop smoking, it can prevent the disease from getting worse. And for people who already have diabetes, hypertension, or cholesterol, we recommend taking your medication as prescribed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Balagan, for the important information and explanation of PAD. Something that, many of us may have seen people go through these types of things, but maybe we didn't know what exactly it was that they were experiencing. So I really appreciate that information. I would now like to move on and welcome our final before we get into our panel discussion. So please stay tuned. Terry Eunice, she is the owner of Health Up with Terry, as she shares advice to living a healthier life every day. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I love to share my message of better health, and this is a great way to do it. So to get started, people say you are what you eat, and I can't argue with that. You may know that I'm all about the food. But there's a little more that creates what we are in terms of health, and lifestyle choices matter big time. So what resonates with me is you are what you do. Every little habit that we've created over the years determines how our health presents itself. So we can want better health, better sleep, less excess weight, want, until what truly matters, though, is what we actually do. So until action is taken, nothing happens. What we eat, what we allow in our minds, how we manage our stress, how we move our bodies, our relationships, how we sleep, and what substances we put in and on our bodies are all factors in what we see with our health. So lifestyle medicine as a specialty is really gaining traction as more and more people are understanding the value. We know that up to 80% of chronic disease can be addressed with lifestyle measures. So food as medicine is my focus, as evidence really supports the use of a whole food plant predominant diet to help prevent, treat, and reverse chronic illness. Some of the current lifestyle recommendations include 5 a day, fruits and vegetables. The experts that I follow suggest 10 servings as being ideal. So the more the better, and diversity counts. So strive for 2 to 3 cups of unprocessed vegetables every day. Only 1 in 10 people in the US get the minimum recommended amount. But a whole food plant-based diet is rich in fiber, antioxidants, and it's nutrient dense. So choose minimally processed vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. And the closer to nature, the better. Regular and consistent physical activity, very, very important for good health. Some experts suggest 90 minutes every day, and that sounds like a lot, but it can be split up into 5, 10, 15, 20-minute segments. And it's something that most of us can do in small chunks. So think about that. Also, stress management is a biggie. Stress kills. You know, time in nature can help offset some of the daily stressors of life. Exercise helps. Yoga works for many people. The stretching and the quiet is soothing to our body and to our soul. And stop smoking and eliminate or reduce alcohol use is something that we've all heard many, many times. And it's very, very important for overall good health. Getting 7 or more hours of sleep each night is recommended to restore and rejuvenate our bodies. And positive social connections and relationships promote healthier minds and bodies. You know, many of us have heard stories of someone who appeared to be healthy and then had a heart attack or died suddenly. Someone dies from heart disease every 80 seconds or so in the United States. 400,000 deaths every single year caused by heart disease. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity are often responsible for, and all the drugs in the world can't reverse their effects. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, who wrote How to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, calls these foodborne illnesses. His book, along with How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger and Gene Stone, are two of the books that I recommend to my clients who want a different story for their health journey. You know, none of us have a guarantee, but what we do on a daily basis stacks the deck in our favor or not, so that if illness does occur, we have our good health that can help pull us through. So my challenge to you is to look honestly at what you're doing on a regular basis. What are you eating? How are you moving your body? What are you doing for stress relief? You feel connected to your loved ones? Is your sleep restoring your energy? And what substances are you allowing in? Are your daily actions taking you to a place of better health in the next year or 5 years or 10 years? What we do today and every day affects how our health develops as we age. We are what we do. I can help you health up if that's something that feels important to you. You do have the power to adjust the trajectory of your health status. So contact me if you'd like to create a plan for better health. It can be done. I hear lots of people say, "Wow, I just don't have time for healthy, behaviors." But I've seen lots of little memes, on social media saying, well, you make time now for health, or your health will make time for you to, demand it. So we all have the same amount of time. What we have to do is figure out what our priorities really are and use that time, accordingly. So think about any little changes that you can make. Maybe it's something with stress relief. Maybe it's adding some more vegetables to your daily regime. Maybe it's meditation. Whatever it is, these little pieces all add up. And the healthier you get, the healthier you will get, because the more we see healthy changes in our bodies, the more we're motivated to keep going. So just start. Starting is the biggest question. So that's my challenge for today, to look honestly at what you're doing and how you might shift it just a little bit to move in a direction of better health over the years. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Terry. You don't even have to get off camera because we're going to get right into our panel discussion. But I did want to ask if you could just go ahead and drop those books you recommended in the chat, because I think that would be very helpful to this audience.
You bet.
But having said that, we are now going to move into our panel discussion. I know we have some questions from the chat. I have some questions over here. So if all of our panelists could come on camera. Thank you. Welcome, Jamie, Terry. I see we have, let's see, Catherine back. Is Dr. Balagon here too? I'm not sure. Yeah, right here I see, just not on camera, but she is here. And Jennifer and Liz, are they here as well? I can't see everyone, so that's why I'm asking if anyone wants to just say hi, I'm here.
No.
Hello, Jennifer and Liz are not here. I'm Heidi Harnois, registered dietitian at MyMichigan Health. So
Hi, Heidi,
I am
welcome.
standing in for them today. Thank you.
Wonderful. And again, you can continue to put those questions and comments in the chat, but I'm just going to jump right in. One question we had was for Jamie. Actually, Jamie, you had a few questions that were asked about what you had shared on your about the 911 calls, which is something that's really important. So the first one is, what happens if I call 911 and don't end up needing to go to the hospital? Do I still get charged, or is, it frowned upon?
Right. So with us coming out there and you're calling for, let's say, chest pain, we try to make it so that the patient knows how important chest pain actually is. And we try to tell them, you should go to the hospital. We can't do all the interventions on the ambulance that you would need for chest pain. Unfortunately, we can't just acquire all the equipment that we do need. We can do an EKG. We can put you on the monitor to see what your heart rhythm is, but we're not able to do labs or do any other cardiovascular interventions. So we encourage people to go to the hospital. There is no charge for us to come out there, talk to you, put you on the monitor, take your vital signs. There's no charge for that. But like I said, we do encourage people to go to the hospital. Chest pain isn't normal. And we like to stress that, you should probably go to the hospital and get some more interventions done at the ER. Just to rule out anything, we always say better to be safe than sorry. So
when in doubt, do call 911.
Yes,
Don't think about or consider anything.
Yeah, there's no charge for us to just come out there. So just keep that in mind.
Awesome. And then another question we had was more about the stroke symptoms. And I'm just, have you seen different symptoms for stroke in men and women throughout your work? And could you share with us a little bit about that?
I haven't seen a difference between females or males. The most reoccurring symptom, I guess I would say, would be the slurred speech and the confusion. Those are probably my top two that I do see out in the field. And that can be associated with other things as well, like a low sugar or a UTI even can cause some confusion in people. So just to be safe on our end, we always do like to call it in as a stroke. That way we're all set and ready to go as soon as we get to the ER. So the ER is doing their interventions as well, just to rule out anything that could be seen as a stroke. So, but the confusion, slurred speech, weakness to one side or the other, facial droop, those are all pretty common symptoms that we do see every day out in the field that we do treat and try to get to the hospital as soon as possible.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for answering that. And I'm not,
Ebony,
oh yeah, go ahead.
One thing I would add to that, although the symptoms between men and women might not be different, this is a Go Red for Women talk. And one of the things I would say is women are known to be very dismissive of their symptoms. My mom was 54 years old when she had a massive stroke, and she dismissed it as changes in her life that happened in our 50s, right? And so, one thing I would just add to that is, we want women to not dismiss how they're feeling. It might not just be a little heart attack, as we say at the AHA, or, just fatigue or dizziness. We want them to take those symptoms as seriously as we do for men.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I also wanted to see, because we also have Dr. Balagan on the line. Are you here to speak to Dr. Balagan? Did you want to weigh in on that as well, as the differences between men and women, even as it relates to PAD? Do you have anything you'd like to share on that?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you loud and clear.
Okay, good. I was trying to put on my video, but it's actually not coming through. No, I agree with everything everyone has said. I think there are similarities in the symptoms of stroke. I think women do tend to put it off, and it's just good to be aware of those symptoms and to get help as soon as necessary. It's always good if it's nothing, and it's something that's treatable, that's fine, but always try to get help as soon as you start to get some symptoms of slurred speech, even paralysis on one side, or sometimes TIAs, which is a mini stroke, or like a small stroke, blindness, not seeing out of your eye could be a start of a stroke. So kind of knowing those symptoms and getting help as soon as possible is good. It's paramount.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. I have another question for you too, Dr. Balagan, while I have you. Have you seen an uptick in PAD since COVID, or, because I've heard so much more about it. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We have. I mean, we've, unfortunately, PAD is very common in women as well. Very similar to what we've been talking about. Knowing the symptoms is very important. With COVID, I think now we're seeing more uptake because people are coming in late. They're presenting, with gangrene. Initially, usually when people come in, when they start having mild symptoms like claudication, trouble walking, we can simply act on their disease before it gets too late. We're doing a lot more amputations because people are coming in really, really late with PAD. Absolutely.
Okay, it's sad to hear, but it's good to know that we can now be more conscious of those signs, especially in our friends, families, and loved ones, and sharing this information. I know the AHA has some amazing news articles and informational articles on PAD, that we can all, I'm sure, benefit from. I now want to ask Catherine another question. Hey, Catherine, question for you. As it relates to advocacy in the AHA, what are some things that everyday people can do to get involved or advocate for some of those big things like vaping that you were talking about, Kids Heart Challenge, anything, what is the resource or how can we get involved?
Great question, Ebony. And there are a couple of things I would say. First of all, we have, through the American Heart Association, a You're the Cure, as in you are the cure, advocacy network, and we encourage people to sign up. If there are issues that are moving locally at the state level, at the federal level, we encourage you to reach out to your lawmakers if that is an area of interest for you, and to lift your voice. And so many times we have seen that action really help us move those things forward. So as I was talking about the flavors and vaping, all of those types of things. The other thing is we have a really comprehensive policy that schools can pass to address vaping. And so we encourage you, if you have an interest in this locally, to work with your local school board to make sure the right policies are in place. And some of the policies actually surprise people. So for example, we don't recommend disciplining students right away upon being caught vaping. We actually, in our policy, say that we want to come alongside them. It's an addictive product. We want to make sure that we're addressing it in the right way. We want them to feel it's a safe space to address it. We don't want to just say, hey, this isn't a thing to do and you're in trouble. We want to be part of the solution. Just as people who use tobacco are very addicted, and we want to come alongside them to help with that addiction. So they can work on those policies at the local level, and it's also great discussion for schools to have about how do we address this really tough and very new, relatively new issue.
Thank you so much, Catherine. And I'm just trying to see, and I think that's so important because I think people are always, they associate us so much with just heart disease, and there's all these areas and buckets that we're really making an impact in, especially as it relates to Go Red for Women. So thank you so much for sharing. I now want to ask Heidi, I see you right there. Heidi, I have a question. And first of all, that stuffing looked amazing that both the ladies created. But I wanted to know from you, are there any more easy just tips that you can give us that we can keep in mind in an effort to stay heart healthy, putting our health first as we move into the holiday season, which I always say is the tempting season?
Right. Well, as we enter into the holiday season, I think you have to have a mental game plan. because we know that there's going to be a lot more foods that have a lot of simple sugars and saturated fats, larger portions, a lot of family gatherings. And so it's good to have a mental game plan when you're going into the holidays. You can do some things that are just really simple, like, if you're going to be the host, serve fresh, wonderful foods. There's a lot of great, healthy, fresh foods that we can serve for the holidays. For example, for our Thanksgiving coming up, roast turkey, healthy food, good fresh turkey. Sweet potatoes are wonderful. Don't necessarily need to be putting on all of the simple sugars or marshmallows on top. They're good the way they are. And so fresh green beans instead of maybe the green bean casserole. So I think, there's some things that might be typical for your family that you're serving. And certainly if that's tradition, do that. It doesn't always have to be items that are high fat and high sodium. Doing more fresh foods, eating fresh and less out of a box bag or a can during the holidays and throughout the year is a healthy way to go. Another thing that you can consider is when you go to a party, use a smaller plate if you want to watch how much you're eating instead of a bigger plate. And then have just a little bit of everything that you like. Portion sizing is important.
Thank you so much, Heidi. I think all of those are very helpful tips. And I think it is a mindset thing, right? Like I already was like, oh no, because I love my sugars and butters for my food. But yes, I now see let's time for, I think, well, we really don't have time, but I'm going to ask one more question of Terry, because this week we all have been experiencing daylight savings time. It's darker. I immediately know a shift in my, because I associate 5 o'clock with like bedtime with the ice as we move into these seasons. Seasonal affective disorder is something we're all very familiar with now. So do you have any advice for that before we go today? And then we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah, I feel the same thing. And what I've been doing in the evening is, for one thing, trying to stay a little busy, even after it gets dark. Our inclination seems to be to hit the couch with the blanket once the darkness shows, but we don't necessarily have to do that. One of the things that we can do is to do some things in the house with the lights on so it still feels like daytime for a little bit longer until we're ready to turn down the volume and start to relax. And that's okay. Going to bed early is actually an excellent way to improve your health. So, the biggest thing is to listen to your body. And if you truly need to go to bed, then go to bed. It's okay. You can't probably do it every night at 6 o'clock, but if you do it once in a while, it's okay. Your body adjusts pretty quickly.
Thank you so much, Terry. And I just want to thank all of our panelists, all of our presenters for being here today. What a great way to spend, our lunch hour. I want to thank, all of you all again. A big thank you to our sponsor, MyMichigan Health, for sponsoring, this dynamic event and discussion. We are so grateful for your partnership and your support of the American Heart Association and the Detroit Go Red for Women movement. We hope that you all can walk away with something today, whether it's a resource, whether it's more information, or just knowing more about the work that we do so you can get involved. This full event will be shared and available shortly on media. Thank you to everyone and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Dr. Balagan. Thank you, everyone. And also our dream team for making this possible on the back end with technology. Bye. Thank you.